What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to take you guys through my transfer plan for the upcoming Game Week 31. I guess Game Week 31 can be classified as a double game week, even though it's only going to be a double for Everton and Burnley. But will we bring those players in or not? Or we maybe focus for some more reliable options? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's video, the transfer plan for the upcoming game week. I just kind of wanted to put some ideas down in terms of my transfer plan, just so that you guys have some context before we approach the team selection coming up on Thursday or Wednesday. Hope you guys are enjoying the international break. I've returned to content, created the ultimate guide to blank/double game week 33 yesterday, so make sure you guys go check that video out if you have not. In this video though, I'll also be doing a review of Game Week 30, which is going to be that big blank game week. Was it a disappointment? Was it a green arrow? We'll wait and see, and I'll talk about that shortly. But if you guys are interested in my transfer plan for the upcoming Game Week 31, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So as promised in the intro to this video, I'm going to be doing a quick review of Game Week 30, the blank game week, the biggest one of the season, just because when we hit the team selection, I might not want to review it because there's been kind of a 2-week gap and most of the information might not be relevant. So in terms of blank Game Week 30, we did not choose to use the Friet as I thought that my starting 11 was perfectly adequate to get me a green arrow. Well, that wasn't the case. We actually got a red arrow to about the 15k mark. Now the reason for that red arrow will become a little bit more prevalent as I talk about my team. Unfortunately, most of the players that I was expecting to play did not, and therefore I only had about 7 players. But let me know in the comments down below how you guys got on. How many options did you have at the end of blank Game Week 30, and was it a green or was it a red arrow? So starting off with our bench, as we always talk about on these game week reviews, in terms of Foster, Breuer, Salah and Trent, all of them didn't have a fixture, so let's just skip the bench and head to our goalkeeper. So our goalkeeper for Game Week 30 was going to be Ramsdale. So what ends up happening to Ramsdale? Misses the training on I think the Friday or the Thursday. So we actually did have information about him potentially being out, but I definitely wasn't going to take a -4 hit or use a free transfer to take him out when Arsenal have some nice fixtures coming up. So I was actually just hoping that Ramsdale would start. Had a little bit of hope because he was actually pictured coming off the Arsenal bus. But what ended up happening? He was there to support Leno, who started in goal but didn't have to do much. So I actually think that Ramsdale could have played the game even though he was injured because Aston Villa didn't have a shot on target in the whole 90 minutes. So no saves were made by Leno, but 6 points was still going to be the total for the goalkeeper as Arsenal did end up keeping a clean sheet. Super annoying at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure there will be a load of you who have Ramsdale as well. Just the fact that he missed out, but also Arsenal keeping a clean sheet when some managers own a Tierney or maybe a Ben White looks quite bad. So now you guys can kind of see why I ended up getting a red arrow when you don't have your goalkeeper starting and their team keeps a clean sheet. That is 6 points missed. Now heading on to the rest of our backline, and the pain continues. I first want to just say Luca Digne 100% was not expecting him to play. I just had him in my team. Maybe there was a miracle after the press conference and he was back in full training. Actually was training with the French squad today, so has returned from that injury, but he didn't return in time for blank Game Week 30. Doherty ended up only getting 2 points after Spurs' defense wasn't looking that strong. No attacking returns as well, unfortunately, for Doherty against West Ham, but that game was pretty cagey and unfortunately he did end up conceding. Going on to our Wolves assets, there was always a chance of one of these two being rotated. Willy Bolly coming back into the starting 11, missed a Game Week 29. Ironically, actually when I benched both of the two Wolves assets and they kept clean sheets, but there was an expectation for the Frenchman to come back into the lineup and one of Saiss or Kilman missing out. But there was a chance that both of them might play, maybe if a Cody got a rest or something like that, but unfortunately Kilman dropped out, but luckily there was only 1 point missed because Leeds ended up scoring 3. So the Wolves defense, I don't know what's happened with them over these prior game weeks. A little bit hit or miss. Sometimes they have a good clean sheet, but majority of the time, they've not looked that strong defensively. But let's drop the bad luck. Let's talk about our midfield department, where we're going to start off with some bad luck actually. Rafinha testing positive. Now this was a big debate over on Twitter. We had one side of the Leeds fan account saying that he actually tested positive, was on the bus traveling. Then we have the other side where there was rumors of him potentially being out after testing positive from the fan forums. So we had both of these two sides arguing the fact, and at the end of the day in the deadline stream decided to just keep hold of the Brazilian because of all the uncertainty. Now the planned transfer would have been Rafinha out for Harvey Barnes. That would have netted me plus 5 points, so it would have been worth it at the end of the day, but let's just hope Rafinha gets us some points in Game Week 31 and Game Week 32. Kulusevski only returning 2 points, even though his colleagues Heung-min-son and Harry Kane returned quite healthy hauls. Kind of Harry Kane returning each of the goals and then Heung-min-son getting 2. So unfortunately Kulusevski didn't get any points, but luckily Heung-min-son, our captain, ended up getting 15 points, which actually outperformed Kane. So I think if you guys had Kane and Son, it was a guaranteed green arrow this week because those two were the main performers. But at the end of the day, my team value can't afford that, and therefore I've just gone with Son. The next top performer of our Game Week 30 team was going to be Saka from Arsenal. A lovely taking goal and some bonus points. I think he got 3 bonus points at the end of the day. So luckily my other midfielder also got me some points. In the forward department, we got Lacazette with only 2 points. He seems to have kind of dropped off, didn't look that strong in that Arsenal game. And at the end of the day, the transfer for him in and Ben White out doesn't look that great. But now finally going to the absolute MVP of our blank Game Week 30 team, as I'm pretty sure he would have been for your guys' teams. It's going to be Raul Jimenez, who picked up a red card. That wasn't bad enough. He had to pick up the red card before the 60-minute mark, so he ended up on -2 points, which is not helpful in a blank game week. Now yes, it was a little bit unfortunate that he picked up the second yellow. It's been debated online that it might have been a little bit harsh and he should have only got the first yellow, but at the end of the day, Wolves kind of capitulated after the red, and that led to Saiss losing his clean sheet. So now you guys can understand maybe why the red arrow was in play. I started off with 10 players, ended up with only 7 after some rotation, some injuries came to bite my squad. But as I said earlier on, let me know in the comments down below. I'm pretty sure there might have been those of you with only 7 players, but still a healthy green arrow. Always like to see how you guys are keeping up with the season. But now that we focused on blank Game Week 30, got that out the way, let's focus on a double Game Week 31 coming up. But unfortunately, there have been some injuries to some notable options. And those 2 options are going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold and also Mo Salah. I'm talking about these 2 assets, even though Ramsdale and Luca Digne are still currently injured. But I'm pretty sure those 2 should recover, whereas there's been a little bit of an unknown about the 2 Liverpool assets. So Mo Salah, this was the injury that actually kept him out of that Brighton game, or at least got him substituted in that Brighton game and caused him to be on the bench against Arsenal, but he did not play on the weekend against Nottingham Forest because he felt the ankle again. Now Mo will be travelling with Egypt. They have 2 games against Senegal for World Cup qualification. I'm pretty sure Egypt will be playing Mo Salah for 90 minutes in both games. Now let's just see how he performs for Egypt. If he does look injured, if he maybe misses one of the games, that'll give us more insight. But I'm pretty sure come Game Week 31's deadline, we will know if Mo Salah is fit or not. But the other injury concern is going to be to Mo Salah's colleague, Trent Alexander-Arnold. So before the Nottingham Forest game, there was reports that he had a hamstring injury and therefore couldn't travel with England over this international break, and he might actually miss a majority of the April fixtures. So what fixtures are those? That was going to be Watford at home, and apparently he was on a race to be fit for Man City away. So with Trent, unfortunately, we don't actually know if it was an actual injury. Maybe Liverpool wanted to keep him out of the England camp to not really overextend him, but this could be a legitimate injury, and therefore I really do hope that he's back for the Watford game. Now, if either of these 2 assets are out for Watford, that's going to change kind of our transfer plan dramatically. If they're out for Watford at home, they have Man City away next, which isn't too great, and then they don't have a double in Game Week 33. So just keep this in mind, wait for the team selection coming up later on. I'm waiting for some more news about these 2 players, and hopefully we do get it before that Game Week 31 deadline. But now let's go on to my transfer plan, and as you guys know, would have seen in the kind of team review, I do have 2 free transfers and 1.2 million in the bank. Now the first transfer I'm going to talk about might be seen as a little bit more of a no-brainer transfer, however the player I bring in might not be that great. So the transfer that I'm talking about is going to be Raul Jimenez out, and the reason for that is obviously he blanks in Game Week 31 because of the red card, but he also blanks now in Game Week 33. If you guys want to know why he actually blanks, go watch my Ultimate Guide video that I released 2 days ago that you guys will be getting all the insight into why Wolves have a blank fixture. So if we're going to be taking the Mexican out from Wolves, who are we going to be bringing in? Well, there's only one man for the job in my opinion, and that's why I said might be slightly a no-brainer move. It's going to be Weghorst from Burnley. And the reason for that is that you guys can see on screen there, has a double game week in Game Week 31 and also a double in Game Week 33, and penciled in between there has a lovely fixture against Norwich in Game Week 32. But this is Burnley, this is a Burnley attacker, a player that's kind of got an average of 2 points every single game week, but at least in a double game week, that could be 4. Now the other forwards this season have been so bad that I think this Weghorst move is an almost no-brainer. However, I also was considering a Chris Wood from Newcastle, because their double in 33 looks quite strong. So this would be a downgrade. I get quite a lot of value from downgrading Raul Jimenez to Weghorst, and I could use that money elsewhere for an upgrade. So what would that upgrade be? Well, I think when I look at my team for the upcoming game weeks, I have to make a move defensively to kind of shore up my defense slightly more because my defense is looking a little bit ropey. So the players from my defense that I want to get rid of the most are going to be my Wolves assets, and that's going to be Saiss and also Kilman. Now both of these 2 assets do have that Aston Villa game, but also blanking Game Week 33. But then added to that, there's the rotation concern with Willy Bolly back in the starting 11. Now between Saiss and Kilman, I would probably lose Kilman first just because he seems to be rotating with Bolly, and therefore I think Saiss might be slightly more nailed. But at the end of the day, this could be kind of a 50-50 decision. Maybe both of these two assets start every game from now to the end of the season. But even if they do, I don't have that much confidence in that Wolves defense. So now let's talk about upgrades with all that money in the bank. So the first player I'm going to talk about, and the player that's probably most likely to come in if he is fit, is going to be REECE James from Chelsea. Now you guys can understand why I want REECE James back in. Brought him in for the double a couple of game weeks ago, captained him, unfortunately missed the second game, but in the first game had a massive haul, and I definitely won't be forgetting that. Now James does not have a double in game week 33, but the fixtures upcoming are Brentford at home, Southampton away, and then Arsenal at home in that double game week 33. Now I just feel with REECE that he has such a high ceiling, and in game week 32 against Southampton away could even be a captaincy consideration. But obviously there is the concern about his injury, actually put out of the England camp alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold, and therefore he might not actually be fit for the upcoming schedule. And then added to that, the fact that Chelsea have a stacked schedule coming up, I think that Chelsea might prioritize other competitions as the top 4 for Prem looks pretty secure. So that is my concern with REECE James. Is Tuchel going to play him in the Champions League or rather the Prem? Probably against Real Madrid in the Champions League, and therefore there might be some heavy rotation in the Premier League. So talking about rotation, the next option that I could potentially bring in is going to be CANCELO from Man City. Now CANCELO has actually not been rotated that much this season, and therefore I do regard him as a more secured option, as Man City are going to be looking to wrap up the Premier League in the next couple of game weeks. They also do not have a double in game week 33. They have Burnley away, Liverpool at home, and then Brighton at home, and in game week 33, one of the standout single game week fixtures. Now the Liverpool game will be quite hard in game week 32, but against Burnley in game week 31, I actually am considering captaining him if Mo Salah's not going to be fit. But I do think come game week 31's deadline, I definitely will be bringing one of these two defenders in, just because from now to the end of the season, I can see some massive hauls coming out of them. But there is actually another player that I could consider bringing in for either Kilman or Saïs, and that player is going to be Andy Robertson from Liverpool. Now my main concern about Trent is that he might not be fit for the Watford game, and therefore I do want some coverage from a Liverpool defence for that fixture. Andy Robertson has currently tested positive, but Scotland's game was actually postponed anyways, so he wasn't even going to play that international break. So fully rested Robertson is going to be something that's quite foreign to us after him actually playing for Scotland in the majority of the past international breaks. Watford at home, Man City away, and then United at home don't look that great on paper, but the Liverpool defence has showed up quite a bit over these past couple of game weeks, and Robertson has increased his attacking output. So as I look to kind of cement my Liverpool triple up, Robertson could also come in, but I slightly do favour CANCELO or Trent just to kind of differentiate my defence. Now my last transfer plan that I want to talk about is a little bit more of a Maverick move. We've spoken about the assets of CANCELO, REECE James and Robertson. Maybe I want to consider bringing two of them into my defence. So what I would then do is take out Saïs and also Luca Digne, and those two players would become Robertson and CANCELO. Now REECE James would come in for either of them, but he is actually cheaper than both of these two assets, so I decided to go for the more expensive options. But Saïs and Luca Digne out to Robertson and CANCELO would need significant financial upgrades, and therefore the player that I would take out is Raul Jimenez, and the player that I bring in is Gallard from Leeds. So he comes in about 4.6 million, might not start every game for Leeds, but after Bamford's kind of resurgence of this injury, I do think the youngster could be starting for Leeds in the upcoming game weeks. Now what this then allows me to do is change my formation to a 4-5-1, and then I would only play one striker or maybe two if my fifth midfielder did not have a great fixture. I just think that CANCELO, Robertson and REECE James will be having great ends to the season, and I think they might even outperform Weghorst even though he has all those double game weeks. So yes, this would be the more Maverick move. This would be a -4. Don't you want to take any -4s for the upcoming game weeks unless it's for double game week players, but I just feel that these premium defenders might hold some good value. Let me know in the comments down below which of these transfers do you guys think is the best, which defender would you guys prioritize between Robertson, CANCELO and REECE James, and would you also be bringing Weghorst in even though his average is kind of 2 points. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the Game Week 31 content in the midweek coming up. Massive videos planned and hope to see you guys there. But I'm going to be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.